All right, all. So, Mr. Salisbury here. I may be with you today, but I really don't have a place to go. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of making a video of what I would normally be teaching with you guys. But it's something that you can access and do independently, so that if we're in the hallway or something like that, which is probably going to be the case today and next week, that we're not disturbing anybody, okay? So before we get started with our lesson this week and today, what I'd like to do is kind of just explain the whole program that you're currently in for word study, okay? And basically there are different levels of word study, and your level is syllable juncture. And let me explain to you what syllable juncture means, because it's going to be something that is, you're going to see a pattern in, okay? And what you can see is that on your book, in the cover, you can see it says syllables and affixes, okay? We talked a little bit about syllables last week, but I want to talk a little bit more about it because that's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the time that we work together, okay? And basically, okay, what we're saying is that we're taking syllables. So I always like to break up the words, okay? And then what we're doing with those syllables is that we're looking at the syllables and the different rules that the syllables would have, okay? Now remember from last week, what we said a syllable was basically how the word is broken up when we say it, okay? And all the words we looked at last week were only 2 syllables. And that makes sense because if you look at our sort, which is right here, you can see when the long A is in the first syllable or when the long A is in the second syllable. Sometimes words will have 5 syllables, sometimes words will have 1 syllable, but we have to be strong on being able to recognize the syllables if we're going to be talking about syllables all year, okay? And so that's something that I wanted to kind of review with you before we start today's lesson. One of the words that we had last week was rainbow, okay? And I kind of went over it with you kind of quick on how you would break up the word into syllables, but I did the clap method is one way you could do it. You're probably not going to want to clap out loud, but you can do it in your head. You can say rainbow, okay? That's the way that you would pronounce it. And so what you would say is rain is 1 syllable, it's the first syllable, okay? And then you would do bow is the second syllable. Now again, there are certain words that have more than 2 syllables, but for now, we're going to be looking at 2-syllable words. Symbolic is sometimes what they've been told, or the way that you would say it. And that's something that we're going to be looking at for a little while now. But later, if I go to like sort 53, what you're going to see is something like this. You see helplessness. We're not going to be looking at words that have 3 syllables until later this year, but this goes to show you on how you would do syllables and how you'd find them. Helplessness. And so this one actually has 3 syllables, okay? Help, less, and ness are all different syllables. Helplessness, okay? So now that we kind of have a better understanding of syllables, okay, that's what we're going to be talking about today with our sort, I guess it's sort number 21, okay? So in your books, the page you'd want to turn to get to sort 21 is page, long patterns. So your page is going to be page 81, but I've already taken my words and cut them out, okay? but that's the page that you're going to want to refer to. I'll tell you when to cut them out. You don't need to cut them out yet, okay, because we're going to talk about it first. So basically, in the first lesson that we discussed, we were looking on how spelling patterns have different ways that we would pronounce them. Sorry. For example, we looked at ways to make the long A sound by breaking the word into syllables and by looking at where that long A is in those syllables and how the long A is made. So to refresh your memory, one of the words from last week was payment. Okay? Now when we're going to actually be looking at these words, what we're doing here is that we're almost dissecting the words, okay? And then we're doing additional things. So the first thing we looked at was the syllables. Pay, mint, okay? And it goes and ties well nicely with the way that we organized them last week, because you can see that it is already broken up for you by the long A in the first syllable and the second syllable. And so then you would have had to have known how to break up the syllables. Then what we're looking at is, where is the long A? Payment, pay. That's the long A. And so what we would say, and what we did last week, is that we said that payment has the long A in the first syllable. Okay? This is going to all come back to play later on why we're breaking up the syllables, because there are rules depending on the different syllables. But before we get into that, we want to look at all of the ways we can make the vowels long through different patterns. And so here we would have put it into our long A in the first syllable because payment's there. But we went a step further, and instead of looking at where long A is in terms of the syllables, we also looked at ways that we can put the letters together to make a long A. And basically what we found is that we can have an A, okay, consonant, okay, so that would be B, C, D, F, G, all the ones that are not the vowels, and then an E. And then anytime that you have an A, consonant, E, it makes that A sound long, okay? That's the most common, okay? One thing for you to consider is that when we have words like this, like awake, for example, okay, it does make that A long, because you can see here I have my A, I have my consonant, and I have my E. But one thing that I want you guys to be looking at is that once we have this pattern, the E becomes silent. Okay? So it's awake. It's not awakey or awake ah. Okay? So anytime that we are going to be using this pattern, that E at the end is going to be silent. It's the same if that happens inside of the word as well. Okay? Anytime that that pattern is there, you're going to be trying to, it's going to have that long A. I'm trying to think of a word where it would have that in the middle. Here's one from last week, basement. Okay, base, meant, 2 syllables. The long A falls in the first syllable. Okay. Now, if you look at this, I have my A, consonant E, but I still am not pronouncing that E. It's basement, that basement. Okay, so anytime that we have this pattern, the A, consonant E, it makes the A long. This becomes silent. You can't drop the E, okay? We'll talk about that later, but it does become silent. It goes away. This is going to tie into what we do today, okay? The other 2 ways that we said that we could make the long A was the ain, okay, which makes that long A, or we also have this, okay, A, like A, makes that long A, oops, off my page here, makes that long A, okay? So, today, I know that was a little bit long, but today's sort is really the same, except instead of looking for that long A pattern in syllables, we're looking for the long I pattern in syllables, okay? And then I think that you guys can probably see the pattern over the next few weeks. We'll talk about long E patterns in accented syllables. We'll do U and O, okay? Because there are different rules depending on the word. So what I'd like you to do is just look at your words, don't cut them out yet. And what you're going to see here is some ways to make a long A. And what you can see, I have surprise, okay? You're going to see a common connection between the way we make a long I to where we made a long A. And so if I look at surprise, we're going to do it the same way. We want to break up the syllables, okay? Because it's having us sort it in only, a couple syllables. Most of these words are two-syllable words, or two symbolic. So this would be surprise, okay? And so you can see that we have, this is my first syllable, this is my second syllable, okay? And so right away, for your sort, okay, because the sort actually is not too hard, you'd put it in the second syllable, because that's where the long I is, okay? And so once we eventually cut our words out, we would put it into here, because that long I is in the second syllable, okay, in surprise, just like we did with the long A last week. The difference is that, well, we'll do that after, because I am going to go through and kind of show you on how that you would make that long I sound. One of them is hopefully something that you've already connected with based on last week, which is that you can get a long I with the I consonant E, okay? Makes that I long. This becomes silent. And so this is cool because this rule applies same to A. Okay? That one's pretty simple. Now there's always ones, these don't count as oddballs. An oddball is where you see this. Okay, we'll talk about it when we get there, but you see this, and for one reason or not, it does not make the I long. That's what an oddball is. It just doesn't go against, it goes against the rule for one reason or another. But for us, the other way that you can make a long I sound is to have this. Okay, anytime that you have an I, GH, okay, it's going to make the I long. All right, now hopefully, okay, you're going to start to see a little bit of a connection between this as well. Because remember, when we have an I consonant E, this pattern is going to make my I long, and then this becomes silent, that E. It's like it did its job to make this long, and then it goes away. The same thing is true for I, G, H. When you have GH next to an I, it's going to make that I long. But it's done its job. And so that GH becomes silent. For example, hi. Okay, hi is, I guess, only one syllable, hi, right? It's not ha, hi, okay? And because that the GH is next to that I, what we know is it's going to make that I long. But that becomes silent. So we actually pronounce it hi, which makes perfect sense if you really think about it. The reason we wouldn't want to pronounce this is because it would make sense. It'd be hi, j, huh, hi, j, huh. If you were to look at it this way, of course, that doesn't make any sense. Okay? And so you're going to start to see these patterns, but I've gone kind of a little bit further. Where we're going to start is we're going to start simply at breaking up the syllables into two syllables and then kind of organizing them that way. All right? So what I'd like you to do is pause the video. All right? I'm not pausing it, so you actually have to pause it yourself. And I want you to quickly cut out your words that are on page 82. Okay, I already have mine cut out right here. And based on the way that the sort is done on your workbook, I want you to try to start to sort them. Do not glue them in though, okay? What I'd like you to do instead is to just set them there, and then once you hit play, then I'm gonna go through this and I want you to double check to make sure that you've done it properly. And we'll talk about some of these words as well. All right, so hit pause, cut them out, organize them really quick, and once you're done, okay, hit play and then you'll be more of me, okay? So hopefully you've cut them out and it has not taken you too long. And now we're gonna kind of go word by word. The words that I'm doing are gonna be done in a different order than you probably, because mine are kind of random. So if you can kind of just follow along to wherever you have that word, that would be great. So the first word I have here is surprise. And what I need to really think of is, okay, let's break up the syllables. Surprise. My next question, where is the long I? I, consonant E, it's in the second syllable. You would go there. Okay, now be careful that you're looking at the syllables and where the I's fall, where the long I's fall, okay? That's going to be important when we look at invite, because invite has two I's. We have lightning, okay? All right, so here is a tricky one, because your question might be this. When I'm looking at lightning, okay, what I say is lightning. Those are the two syllables, okay? It's tricky when we get something that's like, let me think of another word that has the GH in it, that actually ends with a GH. Here we go. We'll do, I guess we'll do delight. Basically what I'm trying to say to you is that we know that this GH makes this I long. When we're breaking up the syllables, wherever the syllable is, where the long I is, the GH goes with it. So when I say, because you can't hear the GH. So if I'm trying to break it up into syllables, it can be hard sometimes because, again, I can't hear the GH. So it would still be light. First syllable, second syllable. The GH is in the second syllable even though we can't hear it. So you got to be careful. We got to look at the words and what's there because you can't hear the GH there. You hear I, t. That has to be there because its role is to make that long, and because it's together, because this is working together, they're like a team, they're going to be in the same syllable, okay? And so with lightning, what we see is lightning. Now there's two I's. Well, if you look at that second I, there's no pattern there. There's not a I, N, E. If there was an E here, that would be a long I. And there's also not a GH next to that I. So that I cannot be long. And it's not when you say it, light, okay? This has a GH next to the I. It's in the first syllable. And so we put it here, okay? Now I'm going to go through them a little bit quicker as I'm talking through them all. I have arrive, okay? Arrive's going to be in the second syllable, the I consonant E. I have provide, long I's in the second syllable. Sure on my screen I am. Driveway is interesting too because it's a compound word. There's drive, way. They're two separate words. And actually, if you want to, the way that you show syllables and words is you just do a little dash. And so you could even do this right on your paper if you want, on these, if you'd like to. That's the symbol for where the syllable is. Okay, so it's drive, way, provide, arrive, arrive. This one's tricky because the R's are split up. Arrive. surprise. And so you can see that all of my syllables, where that long I is in that second syllable. Okay? You could, not a bad idea to even draw these things on the words, because that's the way you do it. Now with this one, lightning, the long I is in the first syllable. And so that would go there. Driveway, that's the long I. It's I, consonant E. So that would go in the first syllable. Okay? Higher, first syllable. Now invite, again, has two I's. It's not einvite, so that's not a long I. Plus, it's not even using any of the things we just spoke about. It's the V-I-T-E. So it's that I-T-E, vowel, consonant E. And so it's the long I is going to be the second I, and it falls into the second syllable. We got highway, it's in the first. We got advice. You can see I'm even saying them in syllables, right? Saying advice. Brightly. Decide. Now, favorite. Fave or it. Oddball. We'll talk about why it's not working another time. This is an oddball because it follows the, you can see, I, consonant E. But this one's odd because we don't say favorite. You don't say favorite. You say favor it. So it actually makes it. That's why it's an oddball, is because it doesn't follow that rule. Okay? Combine. Second. Another oddball. Een. That actually makes a long E sound. Okay? So that one's an oddball. 9T. That 9 long I is in the first. Survive, second. Describe. Describe, second. Forgive, second. Sidewalk, side, first. Then we have delight, which is the second, which means one of these shouldn't be here, because I think that they all should fit. Yeah, see, forgive. All right, so forgive's an oddball. It's not forgive, right? I, consonant E, just like these ones have, right? These ones, the rule says that these ones should actually be long I's, but they're not. We'll talk about it in a second. No, not in a second. We'll talk about it in a couple of weeks. We're not ready for this yet. Okay, this has to do with Latin roots and, you know, Spanish and French, and it's some cool stuff, but it's a little bit can be difficult. Then we have delight, okay? Delight, which is there. Then we have slightly, just like that, okay? And those really should be your words. What I would like you to look at in addition, okay, is that when we look at words where they have that vowel consonant E, it usually falls into the second syllable. Think about it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 10 words that have a long I in the second syllable have that vowel consonant E. On the flip side, the ones that are made with a long I where it's a GH, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start to see a pattern. Yes, you can still get a long I with that I consonant E in the middle of the word, just like you can at the end. But getting this long I with the GH almost always falls in that first syllable, okay? And the reason it falls into that first syllable is because we want to stress. That's where this accented comes from. To accent something means to stress it or to say it a little bit stronger. So we say lightning, driveway, higher, highway. You can see that I'm accenting or saying that first syllable a little bit stronger. And the reason I say that first syllable stronger is because that's where the long I is. In words where the long I is in the second syllable, guess where you stress? The second syllable. And that's why we even do this. Surprise, arrive, invite. You can see I'm accenting the second syllable because that's where the long I falls. Here, the long I is in the first syllable, and that's why the first syllable is accented. This is important because you're going to start to see patterns. This is the same pattern that you would have saw last week, and it's going to be a similar pattern that you are going to see the week that we're going to be doing next, where we're going to be looking at other ones. So now that you have all this in, I would do this. Okay, so please write on your words, okay, where the syllable is, and then you put a little line over which of the, actually I'll do this. So I want you to put a line over the long I, underline why it's a long I, and then put a line through where that syllable is. Okay, so here, the reason it's a long I is because it's I, consonant E. That's the syllable. Okay, my hands are sweaty. D, side. That's where the syllable is, D, side. Okay, there's that long I. So put a little dash over it that's telling me it's long. And the reason it's long, you could even do this if you wanted, is because it's a I consonant. You got to do it as with a capital C. If not, then it's hard to tell if it's if it's consonant or you're actually saying C, the letter, E. Okay, or you can just underline them. Throughout the week, you're going to be starting to see words like this, and where I really want you to be thinking, even beyond just looking at the long I patterns, is start thinking about the words and syllables, and start thinking about where you're accenting the syllables. And so, like if I take my name, Daniel, you can hear it, Daniel. The accent's in the first syllable for my name, Daniel. And actually with names, it's oftentimes is accented in the first syllable, and that's why nicknames can sometimes come from this first syllable of your name. So, for me, my name's Daniel. Well, guess what my nickname is? Dan. And the reason we use Dan in that yul is because we're stressing the first syllable, so it would make sense to use that. Okay? Glue these in, work around with this, and throughout the week, you're going to be looking at these words. Next week, okay, we're going to be doing the same thing, but we'll be looking at long O patterns. Okay? Vowel, consonant E, vowel, consonant E. Okay? But there's always that one that's a little bit different, right? Right? Hostess. I'm curious to see if, just like with here, where the IGH gave me a long I wonder with O if the ST gives me a long O, which means that, like with here, we had our one that was a little bit different was this one, right, the AIN. So it seems like every vowel has their special way of making a long sound in addition to the Old Faithful way, which is the vowel consonant E.